Last series of videos, we've talked about the origins of the supernatural realm, how God made the invisible and visible. We talked about Adam and Eve, how everything in creation was good, and Adam and Eve's sin and rebellion towards God. We talked about the fall of Satan. We looked at Ezekiel and Isaiah and discussed who our enemy is, where he came from, and how he fell. We talked about the fallen angels and how the fallen angels fell with Satan and the things that they did to teach mankind and corrupt mankind, and how all of this corruption and all of the things that are listed that the angels or these watchers taught mankind are the same things that we deal with today. So everything we've talked about was before the flood. Now we are going to explore post-flood, what happened after the flood. If you recall, the passage in Genesis 6 says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. So today we're going to discuss the afterward. And please note that the Nephilim giants was this hybrid race that was created through technology of some sort between animals and humans and angels. That was ungodly. It provoked the Lord, and it was one of the reasons for the flood. So now we're going to talk about after the flood. We're going to discuss Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These are Noah's sons, and he blessed one of his sons named Shem above all his brothers. And through Shem, it was the seed, the promised seed that was destined to crush Satan came through. It went to Abraham, David, leading all the way to Christ. Noah also cursed one of his sons, which was the line of Ham. Out of the line of Ham came a man named Cush. Cush begat a son named Nimrod. Cush and Nimrod are going to be our focus now in these next series of videos. It states in Genesis 10, 8 through 9, it states, quote, "And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod is the mighty hunter before the Lord." The first centers of Nimrod's kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, among others, in the plain of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, among other cities, and they were all great cities. The word mighty here, when you do the word studies, implies a hybrid or something other than human. Began to be, he was started at one thing and began to be another. So some speculate he became a Nephilim. So thus this rebellion kicked up again. The Hebrew word here is Gibor. The passage explains his earthly kingdom and everything he established. Nimrod also means to rebel, and he is mentioned a few other times throughout the Bible. Genesis 11, 1 through 4 states, "And the whole earth was of one language and one speech. They found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven, and let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." So according to a variety of ancient texts, they speculate that the people of Babel, under Cush and Nimrod's command, were actually attempting to build a structure so high that they would never have to worry about judgment from God that he might have in store for them. After this tower fell, eventually Nimrod began the first empire of the post-flood world, the Assyrian-Babylonian Empire, which we just read about. Nimrod brought the original grandeur of the tower building project into his new political system of governmental rule. You could say that Nimrod was the first to establish a one-world government and a one-world religion. He used theologies that he and his father had taught into forming religious system of this same foundation. From these systems of politics and religion, the authority and control over people took hold on a grand scale. It's said that Cush and Nimrod were even known for their ability to channel or communicate with those of the spiritual world. In some schools of thought, the spirits that they communicated with were actually considered the dead spirits or their antediluvian ancestors, which also known as the spirits from the disembodied Nephilim giants. Even though their bodies had been washed away in the flood, the spirits remained. The spirits had gotten into these rebellious people and kicked up all of the things that happened that brought the flood after the flood. So the word doesn't talk about this in detail. However, you can connect the dots between biblical scripture and historical writings and connect and get kind of a picture of what might have happened in this civilization. Note that historians are fascinated with this civilization because it's the first to ever be recorded, and they speak of their very spiritual and mysticism that they were involved in. Regardless, from these acts of communication, the two were able to acquire a great deal of occult knowledge. Nimrod and Cush, this allowed their ability to accomplish great things in construction of the tower. The scattered people of their era began to admire them, their positions, and they started to deify them as gods. Cush and Nimrod became so popular, their likenesses were incorporated into many facets of empirical culture since then. Cush, for example, became known as Thoth, Hermes and Mercury, etc. And Nimrod became known as Osiris and Apollo. We will learn more about this in the next session.